As someone who talks about basketball for a living, and because I love trades, one thing you're going to hear a lot in my position is when proposing a trade, specifically for a star level player, you're going to hear how it just isn't enough, whatever you're suggesting. But the thing I've noticed, especially when it comes to star players, is that the notion that whatever trade I propose, and most trades proposed, they do seem to be not enough very often by comparison to what trades actually go down. It seems that these days, trades for star level players are only getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's hard to adjust to the scale in which these trades are being made. You especially notice this trend when you go back and look at not even that recent of NBA history and see that, yeah, trades are not what they used to be. Before I continue on with this video, if you end up enjoying this video, then please be sure to subscribe to this channel. It only makes sense. If you enjoy this content, I presume you would want more. So you subscribe, you get more content in your sub box, as well as you can look at my library of like 8,000 videos at this point. Also drop a like on this video, it only takes 1 second, and it makes a massive difference in how it performs in the YouTube algorithm, aka it makes my editor more money. Give him your likes. It also makes me more money, but I figured I'd leverage Rudy to my advantage. Star players are almost always on the move in today's league. In fact, the commonness of how often star players are on the move has become a concern around the league, with league officials thinking that it's bad for the overall product, and that's a conversation that's gone on for years now. Personally, I fall on the side of the more trades the better, especially as it relates to my job. But regardless of where you fall on the moral end of the spectrum regarding these amount of trades, we can all agree star trades are more common than they used to be. But what I find interesting is when you actually look at these trades that are going down, especially the progression in which these trades become more and more significant, you start to realize that this era of constant player movement does not reduce the value of a star player. In fact, it seems to amplify it, even though that really doesn't make any damn sense. You would think with the volatility of players remaining on teams in the NBA, that would reduce the value of said player, because why would you invest more for an asset that you can rely on less? Like, I'm not going to invest a bunch of draft capital and young players in some star player who could very easily end up moving around once again. Obviously, this is not something that is universal with every star, and I do think it's a franchise's job to keep the star happy, to keep them around, so this is by no means an anti-player movement sentiment. Again, I fucking love me some trades, but volatility should result in an asset being devalued. That just makes sense. Why would I pay more for something I am getting less of? And yet, when I propose that the Denver Nuggets trade basically the entire goddamn roster in exchange for a 34-year-old Kevin Durant, I am told that that trade is not enough for a 34-year-old Kevin Durant. By the way, that's the entire Nuggets roster, excluding Jokic, if that was not clear. Like, I had multiple comments saying that wasn't enough of a deal. Michael Porter Jr., Jamal Murray, multiple first-round picks. Like, if that's not enough, what the fuck is? And the disparity, I can never say that damn word, between what I'm thinking and what they're thinking is kind of me lagging behind on truly what star player value is. Trade packages for star players have been ridiculous lately, especially if said player is on a multiple year contract. Let's look at some star player trades in fairly recent NBA history. One of the easiest examples is Paul George. PG has been a part of 2 trades in his career, and the contrast in the return between the two is pretty substantial. In the first Paul George deal, the Pacers got back just Victor Oladipo and Domantas Sabonis. Now, in hindsight, that ended up being pretty much a slam dunk of a return. While Victor Oladipo did burn out initially, he was like damn near as good as Paul George by his first season in Indiana, and Domantas Sabonis ended up being an all-star caliber guy in his own right. But at the time, those guys' value was not high at all, and this was seen as highway robbery. Then just 3 years later, Paul George is on a 3-year deal now, whereas he was on a 1-year deal in the original trade, and that certainly played a part in the difference in the haul here, but was just 2 extra years under contract contract worth the difference in return the Thunder got back from PG when they sent him to the Clippers? Because there is a stark difference between two players who were not seen as that valuable and an extremely promising young player in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and 5 first-round picks. And really, the two most significant trades of the 2000s also plays a part here. Looking at Carmelo Anthony and Chris Paul, two players who were on one-year deals, to be fair, but for Melo, you got back two young-ish, pretty good forwards, but neither of which have shown even close to all-star potential. Raymond Felton, who to be fair is the greatest point guard of all time, and a first-round pick. That's the return you got for a top 10 player. Chris Paul was traded for Eric Gordon, who to be fair was viewed as an up-and-coming young star, salary filler, and a first-round pick. These were the trade packages offered for a prime Carmelo Anthony and Chris Paul, both bona fide top 10 players in the league at the time of these trades. For them to get such a small package in return is insane. And if you want to argue that the 1 year factor of the contract is like a huge difference, then look at just what even the Spurs were offered for Kawhi Leonard coming off of a major injury. Obviously, I'm not talking about the return they actually got, but the trades they were offered, like Jaylen Brown and Brandon Ingram and multiple firsts, holy shit. And more importantly, look at the Anthony Davis deal, which was again for a player on a 1 year contract, but now in recent history, this results in a return of Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, Josh Hart, and an ass load of first round picks ranging from swaps to unprotected ones. That was for a guy on a 1 year deal who said he was only going to re-sign with the team that he was traded to. What's happening? And, you know, to really contrast this to a historical example, the best historical example by far is not from a trade that actually went through, but from a trade that didn't because of a no trade clause, and that was the two different trades that the Lakers accepted in exchange for Kobe Bryant. When Kobe asked for a trade in 2007, he was at worst like the third best player in the NBA. Many at the time would have said he was the best. He had just averaged 35 a game after all. And Kobe was on a 3-year contract of a 7-year contract, which you can't do anymore, but there were 3 years left on his deal when he asked out. Here are the two deals that the Lakers accepted in exchange for Kobe Bryant. Again, these were deals the Lakers front office took in exchange for Kobe fucking Bryant. Kobe said no to these deals because he didn't like the team that he'd be joining. These were trades that were accepted. Joakim Noah, Luol Deng, Ben Gordon, and Tyrus Thomas. There's nothing else, that's the end of the list. Joakim was just drafted, so it's basically like the number 7 pick. Luol Deng was a promising young forward, and Ben Gordon was a bucket, but Tyrus Thomas sucked, so there's that. But hey, 3 young star-ish players, that's not an awful return, although no first-round picks is insane to me, especially being they had all of theirs going forward. But it gets even worse. They also accepted this package, which is painfully bad. At least in the case of the Bulls trade, that's 3 pretty good young players. There's not even one good young player in this next trade. From the Pistons, they offered a 29-year-old Richard Hamilton, a 26-year-old Tayshaun Prince, Amir Johnson, who was a late second-round pick who had played 11 games in his career thus far, and 1 first-round pick. 1 all-star player who was leaving his prime, a role player, a whatever young guy, and a first that wouldn't even be great because Kobe was on the team. The Lakers accepted this deal. You understand me? They accepted that trade package for Kobe fucking Bryant with 3 years on his deal at the peak of his career. He just averaged 35. In exchange for Rip Hamilton, a role player, a whatever young guy, a first-round pick. Please tell me that trades are the same now, because we're talking about, I mean, fucking Rudy Gobert just got traded for 3 great role players and 4 first-round picks. That's arguably a better trade than this, and that was for Rudy Gobert. You cannot tell me that trade value hasn't changed. You cannot tell me that trades have not been inflated significantly. I don't know what caused it. If you're hoping for me to give you some sort of answer for why this is the way that it is, I don't know. Maybe it's the social media age influencing things and like front offices being more stubborn and trying not to be fleeced or whatever. I don't know, but the more you actually look at it, the more insane it really is. I still can't believe that the Lakers took that deal, and I can't believe it's not talked about more. If Kobe Bryant doesn't veto that trade, the Lakers made the worst trade in NBA history. Anyways, I don't know. That's the video. Shout out to Rudy for editing this video, and goodbye.